Hello everyone, welcome again back to this channel. In this video I'm going to be making a satin bonnet cap. This is an adjustable satin bonnet cap with elastic at the back. Let's get into the video. So I have my satin fabric. I have another piece of fabric that will be used as the band. I have a bias band, and I also have my pair of scissors, sewing thread. So let's start. So the first thing to do is to fold your fabric into 2, then into 4. So the essence of this is to cut out a whole circle. So I'm going to be cutting out a circle of radius 13.5 inches. So you fold your fabric into 2, then into 4. So we are creating a circle of radius 13.5 inches. So from the tip at the left hand side, so I'm going to be cutting, I'm going to be marking 13.5 inches radius all through. So I'm going to mark 13.5 inches, 13.5 inches, 13.5 inches, 13.5 inches, 13.5, 13.5. So I'm going to mark 13.5 inches all through. That's the radius. So it depends. If you don't want it to be too big, you can reduce it. You can make it 11.5 depending on how you want it. So the next thing to do after this is to cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and notch the folded parts. I'm going to notch that part. I'm going to notch this other side too, so as to identify, it's like I'm dividing the circle into 4 equal parts. So I'm going to go ahead and sew a bias band of roughly 8 inches in length for the passage of elastic, because a part of the bonnet cap we have an elastic at the back, then while the other ones we have a band made of fabric. So I'm going to make the bias 8 inches long so that I can pass an elastic through. So I'm going to go ahead and insert an elastic band into the bias. So I'm going to secure the end from the right to the left. So the next thing to do is to run a gathered stitch round the circle. So I'm going to go ahead and run a gathered stitch all around. So you can use chalk to mark the notched area so that you can easily identify it when you are sewing. So I'm going to run a gathered stitch all through. So after that, this is what I have. So I'm going to pull and gather the fabric. And note that your edge circumference, I measured edge circumference is 22.5. It can be smaller depending on the circumference of your head. So I'm making use of 22.5. And the length of my strap, the band I'll be using, the length is more than 60 inches. So I have like 83 inches as the length of my band. So you can make it smaller depending on how you want it. It's based on reference. So you look for the middle of this band, then your measurement 22.5 edge circumference, you divide it into 2, that's 11.2 inches. Then you mark where 11.2 inches is from the center to the right, then from center to the left. So you mark, and the width of my band is 4 inches. It can be bigger depending on how you want it, but this is 4 inches wide. So you look for the middle of the band, then you mark 11.2 inches to the right, then you mark 11.2 inches to the left. So you are going to gather this satin fabric to fit into the 22 inches. So I'm going to gather the fabric to fit into the 22 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and gather the satin fabric to fit into the 22 inches, 22.5 inches of edge circumference. So after doing that, I'm going to sew the gathered part on the band. Remember that we marked from the middle to the left 11.2, from the middle to the right 11.2. So we are going to be sewing within that range. So, and take note of the notched part of the satin fabric, the places where you notched, so that you get an accurate placement. So I'm going to sew. I'm going to be sewing 22 inches long. So this is what it looks like. So the next thing to do, this is what you have. So the next thing to do is to sew from the bottom, like I'm closing up the band. So I'm going to sew up to that point where the gathered part is starting. So I'm going to do that for the other part also. So I'm going to sew to where the gathered part is also starting from. So after that, I'm going to turn it out. This is what it looks like after turning it out. You can decide to iron depending on how fast you want your work to be. So I'm going to pull it out on both sides. So the next thing to do is to fold it over to cover the gathered part. So we're going to fold it over and sew on it to close it up. So this is the final outcome of the bonnet cap. Thank you so much for staying to the end of this video. Please kindly watch our previous videos, like, share and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye.